Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Windshield Time, the podcast where we help you use your windshield time to turn learning into earning. Windshield Time is, of course, brought to you by the good folks at Service Excellence. I'm Chris Elmore, your host, and joining me once again is my excellent friend, Matthew Barbosa. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about the science of options. Stay tuned. All right.
Chris, I like how that Virginia accent came out there in the intro.
What was my Virginia accent?
Folks. Hi, folks. Welcome to Windshield Time.
I don't know what accent that is, Matthew, but that's not Virginia.
You had like an O and a W and an L in folks.
So, I mean, it's a Southern accent, but in Virginia, there's more of a, like a person with a true old school Virginia accent doesn't say Walmart. Okay, they say Walmart.
It's kind of like a New Orleans accent. I've noticed that a little bit.
Walmart, right? Or let's see here. Norfolk, which you would say Norfolk, and the way people in Nebraska say it is Norfolk. And in England they say Norfolk.
Whoa, Chris, kids show, man.
And in Virginia, it's called, for a true Virginia accent, it's Norfolk. So anyway, there you go. Let's move on from that, because I think this is a good important one today. So we're going to talk about options and how they flow from the checklist. And I said this was the science of options. I'm not getting to the psychology of the number of options. We're not going to talk about that today, okay? We're not going to do anything about that. Instead, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about how we build options, how it flows from the checklist. And I alluded to paint by numbers in a previous podcast, so we're just going to keep working on that. We're going to talk about the checklist and how it flows to options for paint by numbers to put all this together. We'll address the psychology and emotion of all this on other podcasts, but let's just back it up. Okay, so we're on a call and we've done a great, thorough diagnosis. And not only have we done it, what have we done, Matthew?
We've filled out that diagnostic checklist or safety evaluation.
And we've documented it, right?
That's right.
And so we've got that information now, and we're going to share it with the customer. And we'll talk a little bit more about communicating the checklist here in a second, but now we've got to turn that checklist into options. And I want to give you guys a framework for that that's logical. And that's what we're working on. We're working on the nuts and bolts, the logical part of this now for the practical reasons. And then we'll get into, on other podcasts, the emotional and psychological, which comes down to the principles of persuasion, which is not a dirty word, which people lump into air quotes sales. So we'll get into that other times. So let's back up to the checklist. Presenting the checklist. It's very important that when you're presenting the checklist that you're telling the customer what it means, what it is and what it means. So Matthew, on the spot, how would you talk to a customer about the checklist and explain the color?
Well, first of all, the color code. I would tell them, here's your checklist. I'd explain what the colors mean. Red means it's broken, unsafe, causing property damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow means it's dirty, it needs to be cleaned, it's going to be an issue in the future. And red and green means everything's good, it's under warranty, it's working under manufacturer's recommendations. Some version of that.
Yeah, some version of that. Yeah. The only thing I would change about what you said is I would flip-flop the order. I would start with green, go to yellow, go to red, because it escalates, but also I would put a time frame on red. So I love what you said about it's broken, it's unsafe, causing property damage, and it needs to be taken care of immediately.
There
And
you
so
go.
they know if I mark something red, we got to do it today, right? Not as soon as possible, today, immediately. One of those two words. Like you said, the yellow is it's clean, it needs to be clean, whatever, or it's going to cause a future problem, and green means it's good. So we need to show the customer the physical checklist and tell them what the colors mean up front. Now, I've come across some checklists out there. They're either in Service Titan or one of the other software out there, House Call Pro, et cetera. And again, those aren't bad, but there's too much scrolling involved. And what I want is the customer, they need to be able to see it on one page. They need to get the whole status of their entire system on one page. If they can't get it on one page, then as soon as you scroll to another page or you scroll down 2 or 3 items, they forget the rest of it. And it's not in context, and we want to keep it in context.
Yeah, you
And
want
the
to capture their
moment,
attention with something on one page that's easy for their attention to go to and not wander.
yeah, absolutely. That's what we want. Okay. So we're going to show it to them, explain the colors, and then again, logical here. When I'm done, I'll explain everything to you, and I'll have options in writing with pricing for anything that's red or yellow. That's how the checklist. Why is this important? Well, Matthew, to find out why you don't have any hot water, I'm going to go through my plumbing diagnostic checklist here. I'm going to check the critical areas of the plumbing system. Of course, mark everything green, yellow, red. Green is good. Yellow is an issue that's going to cause a future problem. Red means it's broken, it's unsafe, it's causing property damage, something like that, and we need to address it immediately. Now, this will take me about 30 minutes. When I'm done, I'll come back to you. We'll explain everything to you, and I'll have options and pricing for you for anything that's red or yellow. We'll talk about it. You'll get to decide what we do, and I won't do anything without your permission. Okay, so now I'm going to go do my diagnosis. I'm going to do exactly what I said. I'm going to rate everything red, yellow, green. Then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to start it out with, and this is just a little piece because you're going to then explain the items and you're going to go through your options. We'll talk more about options. I'm going to come back and say, Matthew, I'm finished with my diagnosis. I know why you don't have any hot water. I know what's causing it. And I finished the evaluation, and you'll see here, there's a lot of greens, but there's also some reds and yellows. Now, would you like to go over everything or just the reds and yellows?
And Chris, what you're talking about right now, I like to refer to this as the kind of forgotten step in between system diagnostic and presenting your prescriptions. There's this kind of pause or reset where we present our findings, we go over the checklist,
Yes.
and it's a good time also to ask the customer. Now, Chris, is there anyone else that you want me to bring into this process with you? Anyone else that might be financially involved or involved in the decision making process?
And that's good. And that's part of the presentation. So when we've done this point of it, now we're recalling the customer back to the checklist. If we need to, we can recall them back to what the colors mean, but at this point, they know. And so now we go into our explanation of what we found, our findings, and then what needs to be done about it, and pricing and all that. But to do that, we've got to have these things created beforehand. Now, here's something I said this on here before, and it short circuits some people's brains when they first hear it. But I'm going to say this. You don't create 4 options or 3 options, whatever you do. We recommend 4. You don't create 4 options necessarily for the customer. You really create 4 options for yourself as the technician for your presentation because you're building a presentation. And just like in most presentations, you have tools and materials you may not use in the presentation. So the reason we create 4 options before we go to the customer is so we have them if we need them. But what we're going to do is we're going to start presenting with our top option, and then we're going to move down if we need to. But at no point do I recommend you show all 4 at the same time.
Chris,
Unless you've presented the first one, handled objections, end up showing the second one, handle objections, end up showing the third one, handle objections, and then end up showing the Band-Aid. At that point, they've seen them all, show them all 4 at the same time if you want to. But until then, it's one at a time until you get to that point. Again, that presentation style and those things, that's for another time. But let's talk now about building the options, and we're going to go with 4, and we'll talk about how that works. Okay, this is the formula I mentioned earlier. First of all, we got to redefine what your job is. Okay, this might be another. If your brain was short-circuited on we don't do options really for the customer, we do them for ourselves, then this might hurt too. Your job is not to fix it, Matthew.
what?
That's right. Your job is not to fix it. You can't do that job without the customer's permission. So to think it's your job, number one thing is just bad thinking. It's a fallacy. Okay? Your job is to tell the customer the status of their entire system at that moment in time, using all your knowledge and experience, and then to tell them what is going to provide total restoration for the system, even if it means replacing. And total restoration means it's going to work the best, last the longest, be the safest, and be the most reliable. That's total restoration. So once again, your job as a technician, listen to me now and hear me later, or hear me now and listen to me later. Your job as a technician is to tell the customer the status of their system at that moment in time, and then tell them what it's going to take to make it work the best, last the longest, be the safest, and be the most reliable, even if that means replacement.
In 2 words, our job is to educate and enlighten the customer. Educate.
Okay,
Here's what it is.
I would choose 2 different words: diagnose and educate.
Okay, fair enough.
That's our job.
Yep.
Our job is not to fix it. Now, does it become part of what we do? Absolutely, it does. And 95% of the time is the goal, but it's probably more like 85 to 90% of the time. That's what we're going to do, right? We're either going to fix it or we're going to turn it over for a replacement of something. So understand that that's your job, and this becomes a lot easier. The pressure's off. Your job isn't to fix it. Your job is to tell the customer the status of their system, their whole system, at that moment in time, and then tell them what it's going to take to make it work the best, last the longest, be the safest, and be the most reliable. That's your job. So completing a checklist, part 1. Creating options, part 2. Only then, if they agree, do you get to part 3, which is fixing it. If you're not good at part 1 and part 2, you're not going to get to do part 3. And if you think part 3 is your primary job, you're going to be disappointed a lot. Does that make sense to you, Matthew?
It sure does, man.
Of course it does. You've lived it.
This is hitting home.
You lived it. So let's talk about recommendations. There's red and yellow items. A red item by definition is catastrophic, and whatever the thing is needs to be corrected or replaced, right?
Absolutely.
So I break yellow items because there's no degree of red items. There's not like, well, this is a low level red, or this is a medium level, or this is a high level critical red. No, they're all red. They all have to be done now. Okay. Now, the urgency of doing them is not affected by the ability to do them. So a customer that's having electrical problems in their house that can't spend $10,000 for whatever reason, you've tried to walk them through that and help them with it, and you can't. So they've got major red items they got to take care of, broken, unsafe, causing property damage, but they can't do it all at one time. So what do? Okay, you prioritize red items at that point. You don't prioritize them before you present them. You prioritize them after you present them and they're trying to get them done.
Let me push back on that just a tiny bit. The only
Go for
thing
it.
that I would do to prioritize my red items is I would start off with the thing that is most closely linked to the reason why they called me out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's how we present them. We're presenting them in that way. But in terms of needing to be done, they all need to be done now. Red items. Yellow items is where we get a little flexibility and it's a little bit open to preference, a small bit. But I want you to think of yellow items in the following way. Yellow items that are components that are going to fail, yellow items that are maintenance things that need to be done because they will cause things to fail, or they're contributing to the components that are failing that are yellow. So you got yellow items that are components, you got yellow items that are maintenance items, and then you have yellow items that are accessory items. An accessory, by definition, is something that enhances the operation of the system, but the system does not need to operate within manufacturer specifications from the beginning. Okay, accessory items are needed after the fact. Like, for instance, if you got like 500 Frisbee dogs and, whatever else, you're just living in a very dusty, dirty house. For your system to operate within manufacturer's intended specifications, you need air quality stuff on it eventually, probably early on, right? But that's for HVAC. Maybe for water quality, your water heater will work fine within manufacturer specifications, but you won't get all of its useful life because you have such terrible water. So water softening is an accessory you might need. So I think the yellow component items are easy, right? Those are components that are out of specs. That's a I don't know. You can name anything you want really that could be still working, but it's not working like it's supposed to. So whatever the thing is doing by definition what it should do, but it's not doing it well, and it's going to stop doing it in the near future if this isn't taken care of. That's a yellow component item. Okay. Then you have yellow. So like a yellow component item from my world of HVAC could be a pitted contactor. It could be a dirty blower. I mean, a blower wheel that's pulling higher amps. It's still running, but it's pulling higher amps. It's a compressor that's pulling higher amps. Those kind of things. Those are going to be component items. A yellow maintenance item typically is something dirty or corroded or nasty or something like that, right? Something where there's buildup that shouldn't be there. So HVAC, again, dirty blower wheel. Maybe water heater, it's sediment buildup. Maybe a component is anode rods, just a thin piece of wire now, right? Those kind of things. But a maintenance items are just those things that maintenance usually will clear up. Okay. Yellow accessory items are when there is evidence of something going on with the system that could be resolved if the accessory item was in place. So, what would be an example of something like that?
Accessory item that would help me
Like
out
there's
here.
something going on with the system that could be resolved if they had this particular accessory item.
Oh, let's take maybe can we say a PRV for plumbing? Would that?
Yeah, if there's not one installed and
That's what
water
I'm saying.
pressure
If there's not
varies, yeah,
currently one installed,
absolutely.
yeah,
That's a
that's what I mean.
problem
Yeah.
for different reasons. So if there's not a PRV installed, that would be an accessory item that's not required, wasn't required by code, it wasn't required by the utility, but would help the situation. But I can't mark it. I mean, I could mark it red if it was a catastrophic problem causing it. Like, I guess that PRV would be a red item. The lack of it would be a red item if the water pressure was 100 PSI,
And there's a
right?
strategic reason for documenting it and calling attention to it, right? It's to have a conversation about it, which that was what we talked about in previous episodes. But uh, it's there's a pretty clear formula here to help you move from your checklist to create your options,
That's
and
right.
that's
So if we can agree on that, reds are reds,
Reds are
yellows
red.
come in components, maintenance, and accessories, and greens are greens. So greens don't get a recommendation. Greens get applause.
Yay!
Good job on this.
Yeah.
That's great that these things are green on your system. So, and again, that's what we talk about. Greens build value. Greens are praise points. They can be praise points, you know? So let's go back to building options. Okay. So the two easiest, if we're doing 4 and we're saying the top option is option 1, okay, and the bottom one or the Band-Aid is option 4. Okay, those are the two easiest. What goes in option 1?
All the reds, all the
Everything.
yellows. Yeah, everything.
Everything. So that's the one where you're recommending the replacement of the failed part or the correction of the red, and you're recommending the components that are failing, the maintenance items that need to be done, and the accessories that the system could benefit from because there's a legit need. Okay. And remember, when we talk about the system, we're talking about the home, the person, the equipment. That's the system. Okay. So, water treatment. Okay. From a filtration standpoint, the water tastes better. Water softening. From a person standpoint, the water feels better. Water tastes better. From a fixture standpoint, fixtures last longer and are under less corrosive forces or whatever you want to call it when you have water treatment. So it benefits the person in the system, right? So home, person, equipment, or components, that is all the system when we talk about this. Okay. So option 1, everything, all the reds, yellow components, yellow maintenance, yellow accessory, all of them. Option 4, which is commonly called the Band-Aid or maybe the must-do, whatever, that is just the red items. And what the Band-Aid does, which it's kind of a funny name for it because what does a Band-Aid do? Alex, what does a Band-Aid do? Yeah. So for those of you that don't speak Alex, what he said was it helps stop the bleeding and it helps protect the wound from outside things. So really, when we think about a Band-Aid, we know what we mean. It's kind of just getting it along to the next failure. But when we think about it, option 4, the bottom option, returns it to the operating condition it was in before it broke. That's it. Everything's still dirty. Everything's still old. The accessories that you don't have, you still don't have. And if the blower motor was drawing higher amps, the compressor was drawing higher amps, if you had a slow drain in the master bathroom shower, whatever the component we just replaced, the red item or the red items, then all that stuff still exists if they weren't red items. Okay. So first and 4, or option 1 and option 4, easy. Option 4, everything. Option 1, just the red items. Now, we could slide a little bit and include a yellow item there if we thought we needed to. But let's just say right now, option 4 is just the reds. So what are we putting in between? Well, the easiest thing to do, and again, this is where some interpretation comes in. The easiest thing is we go with option 1, and that's everything, including the component, maintenance, and accessory items. Then option 3 would be the reds, yellow components, yellow maintenance items, and leave out the accessory items. Make sense, Matthew?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Option 2, reds, yellow component items, leave out the maintenance and the accessory item. That's the formula in its strictest, most basic, easiest sense, right? And I told you we're not going to get into the psychology of 4 options, but if you have 4, that's a lot easier to do than 3. There's a lot less interpretation needed. And again, you're not just laying out 4 options for the customer and saying, you pick the one you want. Okay. You're presenting each one independently of the rest, beginning with option 1 and going down to option 4, only descending if you need to because they didn't buy option 1. Okay. Some people won't, and they'll need to see more, and that's okay. But we never start with, here's all 4 of them. What do you want to do? Okay. Again, we'll talk about the psychology of that another time. But for now, that formula, complete your checklist, document everything. Because here's the other thing too, is if I don't do that, I'm going to forget some things sometimes. Right? Have you ever forgot anything, Matthew?
All the time, man. If I don't write it down, I'm not remembering it.
Yeah, and it's not what I had to realize was that I got a pretty good memory for some things, other things I don't. I can remember my phone number when I was in the 5th grade. But if my wife says, "Hey, will you hang that curtain rod this weekend?" I'll say, "Yeah," and I'll forget. Right? I'll see an actor's face in a movie and I'll go, "Hey, that's the person in the thing from 18 years ago." However, I have 0 idea what my wife told me we were doing this weekend right now.
Yeah,
Right?
my brain works like
I
that
gotta
too.
write stuff down because I capture the detail of it.
Mm.
I knew there was something I was supposed to do, but what was it? So that's what happens when you document the things, because then you can translate that easily over to options building. Because reds, yellow components, yellow maintenance, yellow accessory items, 4 options. Option 1 is all of it. Option 4 is just the reds. Option 3 is the reds, the yellow components, the yellow maintenance. Option 2 is reds, yellow components. That's the easiest way to do it. Now, some people go, well, what if they've got every accessory? Okay, well, you don't have any accessory items. You got to think a little more, and maybe you split some of the yellows up, and that's where you start prioritizing with the option you put it in. But here's the thing. By the way, if you want that formula sheet, because we've got that written up somewhere, maybe on the website. If it's not, just email one of us. We'll send it to you. Because here's the thing. That's not a secret. Right? So that's logic. And nobody corners the market or has proprietary logic. It's just what it is. I guess AI people would argue with that, wouldn't they, Alex? Okay. But here's the thing. If I put something on my checklist, Matthew, and it's not on my option sheet, what do you assume?
Man, I'm assuming, why didn't he talk about this? Or I'm assuming, I guess I don't need to do it.
Yeah. Again, more assumptions.
Mm.
Okay. Now, what if it's either green or blank on my checklist, but there's a recommendation for it in one of my options? What is the assumption?
It's almost even worse. The assumption is he just writing this down to pad the invoice? Is he just trying to sneak something in there? I mean, the
This
mind
guy
can
must
go,
be paid on commission.
yeah, the mind can go to a couple places, and most of them aren't good.
Yeah. Another assumption.
Picking up on the theme here.
You got the theme? You guys see what I did there? Alex, do you see what I'm doing? Sorry, you weren't paying attention again. So, again, we come back to CYA, cover your assumption. Okay? So there has to be integrity between your checklist and your options. If it's on your checklist as a red or yellow, it has to be in the option. Don't try to read the customer and figure out what you should recommend, what you should put in your option so you sell one. No, that's not how this game works. Put it on your checklist. If it's red or yellow, it goes in your options. And it doesn't go in your options if it's not on your checklist. So you do a good checklist, you do your options right, you have integrity between the two things. Integrity. This is what I said on my checklist, so I have a recommendation for it if it was red or yellow. This was green on my checklist, there is no recommendation for it. It's blank on my checklist, there is no recommendation for it. But why is it blank? So
Don't
again,
get Yeah, just don't give your customer's brain the opportunity to wander. What you were talking about is we're creating consistency, and whether they're I said we weren't going to talk about psychology, but their brain is going to pick up on that consistency. They're going to be an
Absolutely.
easier customer to deal with.
Well, if it's logical to you how it flows, it's logical to them. If it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to them. And that goes back to translation. If I'm speaking gibberish in my own language when I translate it, it doesn't become sane in another language just because I'm translating it, right? If a lie is a lie in English, it's a lie in Spanish and French too, right? So that's what we're after when we build options here is we're after that integrity. And like I said, it's formulaic, which again, it's paint by numbers. And here's what happens. Your job is to tell the whole story of the system at that moment in time, and then tell the customer what it's going to take to make it work the best, last the longest, be the safest, and be the most reliable. That's it. That's your job. If that's successful and you tell the story and you provide the solution and they agree to it, then you get to do the thing you were trained to do inherently, which is fix it. But that's not your first job. So tell the whole story of the system at that moment in time. That's your checklist. Create 4 options based on your checklist using the formula we have laid out for you and some nuance depending on the circumstance. That's telling them what it's going to take to make it work the best, last the longest, be the safest, and be the most reliable. That's option 1. And by working with them and talking through them and handling objections and all these other things that we'll talk about another time, if we end up going down the options, remember, if they choose option 1, they decided not to make it work the best, last the longest, be the safest, and be the most reliable. But you did your job and you told them what it was going to take to do that. They decided not to do it. And that's the thing. So by completing a checklist, you're building value, you're building trust, you're eliminating assumptions about you and your work. You're documenting the acceptable assumptions you make, CYA there. And then when you do your checklist, then you are eliminating negative assumptions of, well, why is it on the checklist you didn't recommend it? Or why is it in the options, but there's nothing on the checklist, whatever. You're eliminating those assumptions because your checklist and your options match. They flow. That's integrity. And that means you've done your job up to that point. And that's the reason you're there, is to do that job. Tell the customer the story of their whole system at that moment in time, and then tell them what it's going to take to make it work the best, last the longest, be the safest, and be the most reliable. You've done your job with integrity at that point. If you just go there and you don't do a checklist, you don't document what you've checked and found, and then you make recommendations, I'm not saying you lack integrity, but the process doesn't have integrity from start to finish in terms that everything flows like it should, and it's all documented and it's all covering these assumptions so that anybody can come back with some knowledge and look at that and go, oh, okay, Matthew did a great diagnostic and he made the recommendations he should have made. The customer decided to do them. Great. Customer decided to do none. That's unfortunate, but Matthew did what he was supposed to do. Or the customer decided to go with option 2 instead of option 4. That's their choice. And Matthew was there to then do that work with integrity and quality. So that's what we have to do. That's how checklist and options go together. This is our 3rd podcast connecting these. Go back and listen to all 3 of them again. Recommend them to other technicians. Make this what you do. If you need our help with it, you can contact me, Chris at servextra.com or 254-733-7109. If you want to talk to Matthew,
9672, Matthew at servextra.com.
Go to our website, www.servextra.com. Check out the blogs, past episodes of the podcast, all kinds of free, cool downloads. Check out the dates for our next tech and sales workshops. Get signed up for those. In the meantime, Matthew, what do we do here at Service Excellence?
We turn learning into earning.
Bye, everybody.